out tonight. Hope you enjoyed the wonderful sunshine and warmth. Didn't get used to it because it's not going to last but a little bit.
Take it every little bit we get.
But what I say, spring is 24 days away, just over 3 weeks. Woo! 80 degrees, right?
No.
Never know. All right, since this is the first time we've been back together in a while, I thought I'd just do a quick recap of Genesis, the first 6 chapters, which is what I've covered so far. Of course, chapter 1, God creates everything in 6 days. Chapter 2 starts off with day 7, God rests. And then you kind of get more details or a different viewpoint, if you want, of creation. Of course, man and woman are made, placed in the garden. Chapter 3, man sins against God, and they're removed from the garden. This is known as the fall. It's where Adam and Eve did what God said not to do, and they both did it. Chapter 4, you have Adam and Eve have children, and Cain kills Abel. Cain is sent out, and then you see some of his descendants, and kind of they tend to go the way of Cain. They're more evil. And then it ends with the birth of Seth. And I pointed out, we already know Adam and Eve had Cain, Abel, and Seth, but chances are they had a whole lot of kids, because Adam lived 900 years. Eve, we don't know how long she lived. If she lived 500 years, there's a good chance she was having children for a long time. And where did, the old question was, where did, if Cain was sent out and had children, who was his wife? Some people say, well, God made another. No, the Bible doesn't tell us that. But that Adam and Eve had other sons and daughters, unnamed. So Cain probably married his sister or a niece and had children that way. Chapter 5 is generations from Adam to Noah. We get introduced to Noah. And in chapter 6, we looked at last week, was, God says he's sorry he made man. Genesis 6:6. Saddest verse in the Bible as far as I'm concerned. Noah, though, is considered to be a righteous man. He's right with God. And God instructs Noah, build an ark. That ark, 450 feet in length. Football field's 300 feet. So 1.5 football fields in length. 75 feet wide. 45 feet tall. So that's 4+ stories tall. Now I was looking this afternoon. If you go to the very top of the steeple, that's probably about 3 stories. So add another 10+ feet. That gives you an idea of how tall the ark was. Of course, it had was a 3 or 4 levels, and tremendous. And God's going to take and, of course, send the animals in to stay there and preserve Noah, his family, and the animals. Any questions on any of that? If I haven't been able to ask that in person. Everybody got it? You can all repeat it right back to me, right? Good. All right. Well, we're going to go into Genesis 7. Because I'm probably going to scratch a little bit on this thing now. I can erase this. I want to start there at 6:22, where it says, Noah did according to all that God had commanded him, so he did. Now that's kind of a repeated theme throughout chapter 7. Noah did what God commanded. He was obedient. What set Noah out from everybody else? He did what God said. Everybody else is doing their own thing. And so you get into chapter 7, verse 1. Then the Lord said to Noah, enter the ark, you and all your household, for you alone I have seen to be righteous before me in this time. You shall take with you of every clean animal by 7s, a male and a female, and of the animals that are not clean, 2, a male and a female. Also the birds of the sky by 7s, male and female, to keep offspring alive on the face of all the earth. Now, I don't know about you, I've seen pictures and paintings where when they're going into the ark, and it's always been said that he took only two, a male and a female. I just read you, for the clean, he took 7. But here's the catch. What animal is clean and what animal is unclean, God doesn't tell us until he tells Moses when they're in the wilderness, getting the 10 Commandments, and he lets them know. Anybody know the difference between what is clean and unclean? Split hoof, shoe cut. Had to do both. Horseshoes cut, but it does not have split hoof. Cow does, split hoof, shoes cut. What was one of the things? Is rabbits, hares, as they put it, chew cut, but no split hoof. It had to have both. Pig, hoof, doesn't chew cut. That's why Jews don't eat pork. So why 7? And he doesn't tell them what's clean and unclean until Moses, at least not that we know of. So why 7? Any ideas? The perfect number is considered to be 7 in the Bible. And so why would he want them to take more of the clean ones? What would have been the purpose for them? Any idea?
Burnt offerings.
Offerings. You'll see when we get to where they come out, what's Noah do? He builds an altar and he sacrifices to God. And so to have plenty, God says take 7. It's not that God was prejudiced and like these animals better than these animals, but the idea was to sacrifice to God. And so he's going to take 7 of the clean, only 2 of everything else, male and females. God must have written a list and said, here, Noah, this is clean animals. We don't know. But who brings the animals to the ark? God does. Noah doesn't go around saying, here pig, here ant, here, God sends them to them, including the birds. So verse 4, God telling Noah now, it's repeated throughout this chapter, for after 7 more days I will send rain on the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and I will blot out from the face of the land every living thing I have made. Noah did according to all the Lord had commanded. So again, Noah's obedience. There you go. It's seen the second time. 40 days and 40 nights. Can you think of any other times in the Bible 40 days or the number 40 is used? Moses was on the mountain twice, 40 days and 40 nights.
What about Jesus?
Jesus was in the wilderness 40 days and 40 nights. Anything else?
It was tempted. Well, in the wilderness, that's when he was tempted, yeah.
Right, when he was tempted in the wilderness. So how many years did the Israelites wander? 40 days.
40 years. Yeah.
Excuse me. Yes. And one that you may not recall right away, Goliath. He came out on his side and called out to Israel and said, send your best man, we'll fight, best man win. He did that for 40 days. So there's a little theme in the Old Testament anyway, and only thing that I can know of in the New Testament is Jesus in the wilderness. But 40. You'll see themes like something like that. The 7, the 40 run through the scriptures. So, verse 6. God said, you got a week, Noah, and it's all going to take place. Verse 6. Now Noah was 600 years old when the flood of water came upon the earth. Now, if you go back into chapter 5, verse number 32, one more page, this is where we're introduced to Noah and said he was 500 years old, and this is when God says, Noah, build an ark. So how long then did it take to build the ark? 100 years. I've read where some highly educated men, a whole lot more educated than me, have said, oh, it took 120 years or 30 years to build the ark. I have never seen where they got that number from. Noah's 500 when God says build, 600 when it's getting ready to rain. My math, maybe they had some new math. My math says 100 years for God to build. Now, go back to thinking, common something. 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, 45 feet tall. No power tools, no electric tools. They had to go and do it all by hand. Probably good thing that they had 100 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Most of us, our hands would have been so blistered after a couple more, after a year anyway, we'd have given up. But he kept at it and kept at it. And I'll point out a little bit, Noah, and there's a possibility. We went and saw at Sight and Sound up in Lancaster. Was it no? What did we see? We saw Esther. But I've seen something where it was Noah. Maybe it was on.
Well, they had the show Noah there before.
But they had it claimed like he had hired people to come in and help, which maybe he did.
That wasn't in Lancaster.
He maybe he could have easily done that if he had the money. And as I read this, I thought, we don't know of Cain, Abel, and Seth. Well, we may only know the three sons of Noah. He could have had other children. Now he's 500 when God tells him to build it. So there's a possibility that he had other children, but they didn't want to follow it. Wouldn't be the first children that didn't follow their parents. So, verse 7, Then Noah and his sons and his wife and his son's wife with him entered the ark because of the water of the flood of the clean animals, and animals are not clean birds. Everything creeps on the ground. There went into the ark to Noah, twos, male and female, as God commanded Noah. Again, you see that repeated theme. Noah does what God commands. How many of you want to ask when you get to heaven, God, why did you allow mosquitoes and other assorted things? Verse 10, it came about after the 7 days that the water of the flood came upon the earth. Now, you might remember I said this. It had not rained on earth. In fact, let's see, I got it marked here. Chapter 2, verse 6 says, and I'll go back. That's too far. 5 says, Lord God had not sent rain upon the earth. And then 6, but a mist used to rise from the earth and water the whole surface of the ground. So there was no rain. There's no rain. There's about to be. Verse 11 is in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, on the 17th day of the month. So Noah's 600 year, I can't remember what, 2 seconds there. Second month, 17th day. You might want to mark that because as we go through, you'll see how long they're in the ark because it tells us by Noah's age. So he's 600 years, 2 months, and 17 days, or on the second month, 17th day of his 600 year. On the same day, back in verse 11, all the fountains of the great deep burst open, and the floodgates of the sky were open. You ever seen Old Faithful? Maybe in person or picture? Old Faithful is, of course, a geyser. It shoots water up. Imagine a bunch of Old Faithfuls all around the world. And then it comes down, it starts to rain. We kind of felt like that's what happened this past month, but not too many geysers. So you've got rivers and streams and so forth that very quickly, I wouldn't say in hours, but say within a day or two, they're pretty much at flood level. And I mean, it's not coming down in a light mist. It's pouring. And I think I said this before. Why were they able to live so long? Well, the earth, here's the planet. We have our ozone layer. Well, before the flood, it's said to have been really thick. With the flood, it burst open everything, so it got thinner, which is why we have all the wonderful rays that can hurt our bodies today. So it's coming down from above and from below. It is just filling up. The rain fell, verse 12, upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. Again, repetition, not the last time. Verse 13, on the very same day, Noah and Shem and Ham, Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with him entered into the ark. They and every beast after its kind, and all the cattle and their kind, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, after its kind, and every bird after its kind, all sorts of birds. So they went into the ark to Noah by two, the animals, they came to Noah, came to the ark, by twos, all flesh, in which the breath of life. I read a number of years ago, going through Genesis, and someone said, how on earth could he get all those animals, even though it's that big? Imagine a full-size elephant and the damage a full-size elephant could do if a mouse ran in front of it and got scared. How did he get them all on there? Or, plus you got the giraffes, how big they are, and hippos, and rhinoceros, and all that. Well, this person said he didn't have to have full-grown animals. They could have been 6 months old, weaned from mama, old enough to take care of themselves. They're going to be on there for a long time. And so by the time they come off the ship, they're a year or so in age, able to go out and mass produce. So it's possible that when they went on that ark, you didn't have this great big full-grown elephant, you had a baby elephant, about 6 months, or for elephant, maybe a year old. Think about a cat and a dog. You can take them away from their mom at 8 weeks. They're fine. As long as you feed them anyway, they're fine. They'll be good. And so it's possible that the animals that were on there that God sent, they weren't the mamas and the daddies, they were the babies. Again, I'm not saying that's how it was. I'm just saying that's a possibility that would have made putting all of them on the ark, they wouldn't have been eating. I mean, compare the amount a full-grown bull elephant would eat next to a 1-year-old male elephant. Probably less than half. So it would have made it a lot more convenient for the babies to have come instead of full-grown. So they're in the ark, everything that breathes, and then we get to verse 16. Those that entered, male and female of all flesh, entered as God commanded him, and who closed the door? God did. I've heard it illustrated this way. Noah didn't build the ark and hang on to the outside hoping everything was going to be okay. Noah went into the ark. All the animals and all the humans went into the ark. Noah and his family. Why? Because they obeyed God. They trusted God. They went into the ark, and God closed it. He sealed it. Think of our salvation. We place our faith in Christ. You can't get your salvation. You can't earn your salvation. You can't buy it. You can't barter for it. It's signed, sealed, and delivered by God. God closed the door for Noah. God closes the door, so to speak, for us. We're saved by grace. We're saved by what God does. Noah and his family and all the animals were saved by God closing that door. So there's a little parallelism between our salvation today and Noah and the animals on the ark. So verse 17, then the flood came upon the earth 40 days, and the water increased and lifted up the ark so that it rose above the earth. So you're getting a few feet, probably close to 20 feet, 10 to 20 feet, I'd say, for that size of a ship, deep to where that ark is going to start to float. And it's not going to float on 2 feet. I know that much. And so it's been raining for a while. You've got water, and it keeps on rising. The water prevailed and increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. So now it's starting to float, a lot of water. The water prevailed more and more upon the earth, so that all the high mountains and everywhere under the earth, under the heavens were covered. The water prevailed 15 cubits. A cubic is equal to 18 inches. So that's like 22 and a half feet. And the mountains were covered. Now, some people want to say that this flood was just regional. But you know, if you put water in a swimming pool, little blow-up swimming pool, and you keep pouring water into it, what happens? Eventually it reaches the top and pours over the sides, doesn't it? Well, if it's going to go that high up near the Andes Mountains, which I think are the tallest mountain range in the world, and it covers them, it's going to cover everywhere else too, isn't it? At least that's what makes sense in this little brain of mine. So it's at least 22 plus feet over the tallest mountains. All the flesh, verse 21, that moved on the earth perished. Birds, cattle, beasts, every swarming thing that swarms on the earth, and all of mankind. I didn't bring my sheet. I have it in the office. Make a copy for anybody who wants one, where I went through the age. Adam didn't see Noah born, but he probably saw He didn't see Noah born, but he probably saw Noah's grandfather Methuselah born, who died the same year as the flood. Now, did he die before the flood or in the flood? And can you imagine this? Noah, family, they're in that ark. They hear it rain. The water's rising. Here's the ark starting to kind of wobble a little bit because of the rising water. And what's on the outside? Noah! It's Grandpa Methuselah. Let me in. Maybe some siblings, and cousins, and neighbors. Noah, let me in. Who sealed it? Who closed it? God did. Noah says, I can't. I believe it's in, I think it's 2 Peter. He's called a preacher of righteousness. That's 1 Peter, that's right. It says, Noah, a preacher of righteousness, with 7 others, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly. You know what Noah did for 100 years? Yeah, he built the ark. But he's out there telling any siblings, his parents, grandparents, anybody else that was alive. He's telling neighbors, friends, strangers, repent. God's going to flood the world. What did they do?
Crazy Noah.
I can't guarantee it.
They've never had rains.
Never rained, didn't believe him. He's crazy old Noah. Until it starts to rain and they're beating on the side of that thing after God's closed it and said, let me in, let me in. You know, a future day is going to be something like that when Christians are going to be raptured out of this world and churches around this world are going to be full with people looking for how to get saved. It won't be too late. But if it takes such a dramatic experience in the life of a human being to get into the church, the percentage of them actually getting saved is going to be small. The sad part, in my opinion, is there's going to be a lot of people who grew up and lived most of their life attending church that they're going to be wondering, why am I left behind? Because they never placed their faith in Christ. They depended more on, well, I did this and I did that. And Scripture, I believe it's in Matthew, Jesus says, they say, Jesus, I did all this for you. And Jesus says, I never knew you. Time's marching forward. Everything that had breath of life died. Verse 23 and 24. Thus he, God, blotted out every living thing that was upon the face of the land, from man to animals to creeping things to all the birds of the sky. They were blotted out from the earth. Only Noah was left together with those that were with him in the ark. And the water prevailed upon the earth 150 days. That's 5 months long. Why did God have to flood the earth? Why did God?
Obedience.
Why did God flood the earth?
Corruption.
Only one word.
Sin.
Sin. Adam, you see all these fruit in this garden? You and Eve need all of them except that one right there in the middle. Adam and Eve both. Eve may have taken the first bite, but Adam's the one who messed it all up. He could have said, God, she ate. You take care of her, but he didn't. They saw it and said, it looks pretty good and tasty. They thought, well, I am kind of hungry. I could be like God. Take a bite. Sin entered. Sin enters into all of our lives when we do something we know we're not supposed to do, and we know why we're not supposed to. If anybody's sin was just doing something they know they're not supposed to, there's not a 2-year-old alive that would stand a chance of going to heaven, right? Because they do everything they're told not to do. You have to reach that point of accountability where they realize this is why I should not do it. I talked about our children, how they were little and would often take, and they would be near the wood stove, and we'd say, don't touch it, don't touch it. And you turn your back and you look, they're like getting close to it, whack, get them at the thing. Had to correct them because I didn't want them to get hurt. God will correct us, but it's in our nature to do wrong, to go against God. Thanks to Adam and Eve. And I often wonder, if God looked and said, I am sorry I made man, and this was like 1,500 years since he made man, what's he like today? Kidnappings, I've seen a few of those on the news lately. Murders, drive-by shootings. Of course, then you have abortion. Then you got all the sexual immorality that's taking place. How much worse? Next time, we will not be by water. You'll see that Noah gets off, gives us that beautiful rainbow. Next time is by fire. But their promise is new heaven and a new earth. Any questions before close this thing up? All clear as mud. Wonderful.